Hi, everybody. Today, Carrie and I are here with our unedited episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Today's topic actually came about pretty organically. Carrie and I were discussing the negativity surrounding disappointment that we've been seeing on our social media feeds. And this time of year, kids, it's the beginning of everything. Kids are joining teams, being assigned teachers, rushing sororities and fraternities. And there's a lot of disappointment surrounding some of these life moments. So that's what Carrie and I wanted to discuss with you today. How, as parents, we can help our kids with their disappointment.
So and also I'm seeing a lot of parents asking questions. How do I help my child who is so upset and so disappointed in XYZ? So a lot of it is what I'm seeing is I didn't get into the sorority or fraternity that I wanted, or I
Right.
got dropped right away from all of the houses that I really thought, these people liked me. Um,
Right.
we get it. We get it. We've been there before as teenagers. We've been there before with our own children.
Oh,
So
for sure.
today's conversation is for us to share some scenarios and how we can help you, give you some tips on how to manage your own emotions around your child feeling disappointed. Because that's where it begins, right? It is so
Oh,
uncomfortable
terrible.
to watch your child be disappointed, let down, upset, hysterically crying. It is so uncomfortable because we just want to reach in and make them feel better.
Right.
Right?
We want to fix it.
We want to fix it. However, parents, disappointment really starts at a really, really young age. And so if we can work with our children at a young age to let them know that these big emotions and what they're feeling is okay, and they can learn to sit with them when they become older, disappointments are still going to happen. We know that. It happens for our entire life. But as
Yes, of
parents,
course.
right, we want to help teach them or give them some tips to
And
help
tools.
them know what to do with the emotions when they feel them. So, Jessica, take us
Very well said.
into a scenario that you have with one of your clients, which I think will be really helpful.
I will. I just want to say that one of the reasons it is so hard to see our children so disappointed and why it feels so terrible is because most of the time we've been there. We know what they're feeling. We've experienced these feelings ourselves and we can tell them, we can help them through it. But just like we had to go through it, our children have to experience it also.
Yeah, and I actually think that trying to help them through it by us telling them, "Oh, I know how that feels. This happened to me. I've been there," actually doesn't help them.
Right, doesn't help. They don't wanna hear about you in that moment. It's not a you problem, it's a them problem.
Right. And as parents, right, like we're here, our role is to make sure our children are safe, but we unfortunately can't protect them from everything, and we cannot protect them from disappointment, failures, not getting their way, not getting their first choice. It's for me one of the hardest parts that I've had to accept about being a parent.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And honestly, it took some figuring out and getting used and figuring out what to say to them and figuring out how to teach them that it's okay to be disappointed.
Right. And
It's
I
not
think my
easy.
my one phrase, my kids are probably so sick of me saying this, but getting comfortable was sitting in the discomfort, like they probably want to, like hang
Listen,
up on me when I say that. But
I have one child in theater. Her whole theater career has been disappointment and not getting the role or not getting the part. So I'm here to tell you they come out stronger and it builds character for who they are to become in their adult life. So it's hard to go through it. We're not taking anything away from that. It is hard to live it with your child's disappointment.
all right,
But
so
there
here
are
are
some
some tips.
Yep, there are some tips that we have for you to help you help your children get through it. What Carrie started saying earlier was I had a client who was having some issues of sibling rivalry. Now, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother episode. But in this particular scenario, it just shows us how disappointment starts at an early age. Her kids were fighting because one child wanted a toy that the other one was playing with. And her immediate response to her older child was, just give it to him already. I can't take the yelling and the crying. Just give him the toy. Now, yes, we spoke about what that was doing to her older child. We spoke about what she was teaching her younger child, but for the sake of this episode's discussion, what she needed to realize was how to put her emotions in check to help her younger child deal with the disappointment of not having that toy in that particular moment. And so much of this, as we have keep saying, as we said earlier, you have to be okay with your feelings. Your feelings have to be at a sense of calm. You have to face this with neutrality.
Yeah, but in that moment, your feelings might be
It's hard.
really,
I'm
really
not saying
heavy.
it's easy. It is hard. However, if you want to see the results, this is what you need to work on too. Um, so take your younger child away, take them to the side and explain to them, big brother, big sister, she had that toy first. We're going to let them finish playing with it until it's time for you to play with it. And whatever that younger child is feeling in that moment, if that one explanation is enough, great. If they need to sit in that discomfort and cry and scream, sit there right with them. If they start getting physical and going after trying to hit their older sibling, remove them. Whatever it is, you need to be there to support your child through those big feelings of disappointment they're having in that moment. When those feelings and emotions have been put to rest, then you can offer some suggestions. I know how upset you were. You wanted to play with that toy. What's something we can do next time? Can we ask big brother or big sister when they're going to be done? So now you're teaching your child to problem solve and a little bit of conflict resolution. In but the takeaway in this moment is to let your child have those big emotions of disappointment and then work through what can we do moving forward. So you're resisting in that moment, you're resisting the urge to try to fix the problem by just demanding your older child just give up the toy. You're focusing on your younger child, dealing with the disappointment of not having that toy in that moment.
Right.
Does that
And
make
I
sense?
had a scenario where having two boys, right, sometimes they would try to get a little physical. And so our rule was there is, and I didn't yell, right, but I said it firmly, there's no fighting, physical fighting in our home. If you'd like to fight, you can take it outside. And I'd actually walk towards the front door to like open it, and never,
Did they ever leave?
no, no, no. They're not going outside. They were shocked, right? And sometimes when as it moved on, right, as I would move towards the door, because obviously it happened more than one time, it did not work by me saying it one time. But as I would walk towards the door, they would just stop because they knew what I was going to say and do. But I don't know if it's because we were in like sweltering heat in South Florida. That they're like, hell no, we're not going outside in 95 degrees to fight with each other. But you
And
know,
did they figure it out? Did it
they
work?
they did. I will say, that was a good tool for me to use for myself, but I could have done a better job afterwards following up with the right way or better ways to communicate with each other. So,
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
So, what about now as we get older, moving into the, middle school, teenage years? Obviously, those same strategies might not
Here's the
work.
thing. Uh, I have to disagree with you. I think they always work if you follow through with them and you build on them. We're not putting in new strategies, we're just building on our old ones.
Okay.
Because okay, let's discuss disappointments that kids face when they start entering school, middle school, high school, and I know we've said some of them at the beginning. I just said my child was a theater kid. She didn't get the roles that she wanted. She didn't get, somebody else that got a singing part that she wanted. So there was always disappointment. They didn't get my boys didn't get put on a team with a friend that they wanted to be with. You don't get a teacher that was the supposed to be the better teacher, using air quotes here. These are all disappointments that we face. So what do? Do you jump in and say, I'm going to fix this for you? Do you,
Well,
what?
so naturally, right, I'm sure there are some parents that think their child should have gotten that part. And
Yes.
they start expressing their disappointment or their anger to their child at them
Yes.
not getting the part. So it gets back to like we have to manage, like you might think that as the parent, but you have to manage your own emotions,
Yes. And it's
right?
hard.
Like
It
you're
is
not going to
so
be able to control what happens for your child, right? Like they're not going to get a job. They're not going to get a promotion. You're not going to at 30 and 32 go to their boss and be like, it's just not going to
right.
happen.
Right.
So acknowledge it because, yes, those feelings bubble up when your child tells you they didn't make the team or they didn't get the part or in band, they're third or fourth chair and not first. So those things are going to happen. And yes, we are going to be disappointed for them. Like we're going to feel it for them, but we have to do our best to manage those emotions so we can be there for our child. So,
So
Jessica,
how do we do that? Let's
the child comes to you and says they didn't get the part. What do
You
you do?
validate their feelings. You find out what their feelings are in that moment. How are you feeling about it? I'm really upset. I'm really disappointed. I tried hard. I thought I was better than that person and I didn't get it. Validate their feelings. I think what you're feeling is right. You have every reason to feel the way you did. I saw how much effort you put into practicing. I'm really sorry you're feeling disappointed right now.
Right. Resist the urge to try to start also pointing out to them all their other positive skills, right?
Right.
Like you're not trying to fix or make them feel better. You're just trying to support and sit with them while
And
they're upset.
you can always ask your child, how can I best support you in this moment? And they might say, I don't know.
Right.
Then you say, okay, I'm just going to sit here with you. If you want to talk it through, we can talk it through. If you want your space, I'll give you your space. But I am here for you. Let them know they always have your support. resist the urge to dismiss their feelings. Ah, you shouldn't be upset about that. There'll be other parts, there'll be other roles, there'll be other this, there'll be other that.
Right. Or
No,
you didn't want that part anyway because it was gonna take too much of your time.
right.
Don't make
That defeats
excuses, right?
r right. It's not
Disappointment. It
it
sucks,
is
right?
disappointment. It yes, 100%. It sucks, but putting something in place of it, like, "Oh, but you're so good at this," or, "Oh, remember you had this part, you were great here." What are you doing? You're taking away their disappointment, not helping them through it.
All right. So what if your child really, really feels like they deserve that part or that spot on the team or that position and they really want to do something about it?
Here's the thing. In most of those scenarios, in my experience, after a day, after a sleep, the kids wake up feeling better the next day. In a lot of instances, it's the parents who can't get over it.
Right.
So if you see that your child is bouncing back, don't sit there and ask them questions. Oh, are you still upset about this? Or how do you feel? Oh, I can't believe so and so is able to do that and you're not. We see it all of the time,
Right. Right. I think you have to ask yourself as a parent, right? Is this about me or is this about my child? I
right?
think you have to really question yourself where you're
But
coming from.
and you can say it's about your child, but if you see that the next day your child is feeling better, they have a smile on their face, they're doing okay, we're not going back to, are you still upset?
Yeah.
Are
Yep.
you
Let
still
it go.
are you still hurt? If you take your cues from them. If they're moving on, you need to move on as well.
Okay.
But what if they're not? What if after a sleep, they're still disappointed? They've had some time to think about it. Now is when you can start to work with them. And you're not coming in with the solution. You're helping them arrive at what they think is the best way to face the problem and the disappointment. I know you're upset. You shared that with me. Is it something you want to revisit with your director? And if they say yes, you can say, okay, here, let's brainstorm some tools. What can you say? You can say, Miss Smith, I thought I really tried hard. Can you please give me some feedback as to what I can do for next time so that I can make my next audition stronger? So then your child is making the director know that they're upset that they really wanted the part, but that they moved on. What can I do to grow as an actor or whatever it might be, as a ball player, as a violinist? What can I do to improve? And I cannot stress this enough. It should all be your child's lead. Your child should be the one asking the questions, not you.
Right. And if they take the suggestion and they move forward and they actually go to the director or the teacher and share their disappointment, right? They could get some really good feedback. That's a possibility. But the possibility also is that the teacher's not very responsive and there is another secondary level of disappointment. So in that situation, I think you just with your child say, you should be really proud of yourself that you shared how you were feeling. You know, you can't
100%.
control how other people respond or what they do with the information, but you should be really proud of yourself.
I love that. You can only control what you do. You can't control how someone's going to react to you.
All right. So, what if now we're moving into the high school, college? We did throw out like not getting into a sorority fraternity, but like, what
What
if
about
our child doesn't get into any of their top colleges.
Whole lot of disappointment there. Oh, so okay.
I
So
mean, it's huge.
it is. And in that moment, they feel like it's life-changing for them. And it is. They're taking their next step into college. Where will they go? And I've seen a lot of panic over it. We've experienced our own, what are we going to do? Where are they going to go? I mean, we've lived it.
Yes, we have. Yep.
S- So again, I stick by these tips. You're resisting the urge to make it about you. Oh, when I was applying to college, I only had two choices. You have so many now. You know, resist the urge to fix it. Oh, we're going to make this better. You're going to go somewhere. Don't worry about it. They have to deal with the initial disappointment.
Right. And
And
I've
then,
seen parents say this, and I believe I've probably said it myself. Right. Oh, it's that college's loss. They don't
right.
know, what they've lost. There's going to be another place that's better suited for you. You should only go where they want you. You know, I know as a parent, like I thought that was the right thing to say, but
So
maybe it made me feel better to say it, but I don't think it did anything. Like my child did not want to hear that. They
so if you had to do all over again, what would you say to them now? Or what
I
would you do?
actually would have said nothing. I think I would have just sat there and,
Would you
you know,
offer up, "I'm so sorry. I know you're really
yep,
disappointed."
just sat with them while they were upset or angry or spewing stuff or crying, whatever the emotions were, I would have just sat with them. I probably would have said less. And in that situation, for me, less would have been more to
How
just
hard is that
be with
one?
them.
That
It was
one is a hard
so,
one to sit there and just be quiet knowing they're so disappointed. It's hard.
yeah, yeah. And I thought too, in that moment, that, yeah, sharing my own college disappointment too would help. Like, oh, I know how that feels. Well,
Right.
they didn't really care how
No,
it felt to you.
right. Now, when time passes and they're feeling a little better, you can say to them, "Can I share my story about what happened and how it turned out for me? Is that something you wanna hear?"
Yeah.
So, um, I think unless they're asking you, "What do I do?" you sit with them. You offer them your support. I know that, one of my kids had a hard time with rushing and did not end up where they initially thought they wanted to be. And my husband, who had been through this process before, first of all, he was appalled at how the whole rushing system was working compared to when he went to school. But my son said to him, to my husband, "What do I do? What am I don't know how to handle this." My husband did in that moment give him a piece of advice on how to handle that particular situation. It was more like, listen, send a text, tell them, "Thank you for your time, but I'm moving on." And if they say no, come back tonight, you know that they want you. And if they say, "Okay, thanks for letting us know," you know that it was not meant to be with them. And that's exactly what he did, and that is exactly what happened, and he ended up exactly where he was supposed to be. He
I
found a
love that
place.
he felt comfortable enough to come and ask for that piece of advice, right? Like
Yes,
that shows the level of communication and, he feels secure discussing when he doesn't know something.
right. Now, the conversations that my husband and I were having on the sidelines was heartbreaking. Like we felt terrible for
Terrible.
him.
Yeah.
But
Well, because again,
he
it's that triggering feeling of you
Right.
know how that feels. You know how rejection, exclusion feels.
But here's what I
And
wanna say.
you would
Oh,
do
sorry,
anything to take it
finish.
away. You would do
Right.
anything, that
Yes, right. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
that's okay.
But here's what I wanna say. My son living through that disappointment and that discomfort has made him a stronger, more confident person, and he is now in a position where he is able to help others through their disappointment for what he was experiencing. Disappointment, although it's uncomfortable, nobody wants to experience it, but it helps us to grow and it teaches us so many life lessons. Going in and fixing everything for your child is taking that away.
Yep.
As much as you don't want to see it and you might disagree with me and say, I, I'm sorry, I'm going to, if I can make my child's life better, I'm going to.
Well, it actually would have been, to me, one of the most helpful statements as a new parent. And I don't know where I thought it would have come from. Like, would it have come from my own parents? Would it have come from, you know, the pediatrician or any early education classes that were taken? But I think that would have been so helpful as a new parent to know that this was going to happen and that it actually is something that parents should expect to happen as a building block for their child's emotional development and skills. So, like, those
Yes.
things aren't discussed in early
It-
education or when we're having children. Like, that would have been
or when your
so
pediatrician is asking, did they hit this milestone? They're
right,
not.
right.
It's right. You're right. These are these are absolute learning curves. It's
Because
a
it's
learn as
not
you
our
go.
natural instinct to let our child, in my view, suffer. Right? It
Right.
just wasn't
E
natural.
especially when we as the parents think we have the answer.
Yeah,
"Oh, just do this." No, no.
yeah.
Let them, please let them feel the
Right.
disappointment.
So
It's not
I want
easy.
to go ahead and read a statement that it's a phrase that I learned that I actually printed out and I had on my mirror when I would get ready in the morning. And it was so helpful for me as a reminder about this concept of discomfort. So it's a Buddhist saying, and I'm just going to paraphrase, but this is how it goes. Never, ever, under any circumstances, should you try or attempt to take someone's pain away from them, because in doing so, you may be taking from them the final tool that they need to survive on their own. And why would you take that tool away from them?
Huh. We could have just started with that, and that could
Mhm.
have been our
It
whole
would have been
episode
like
right
a
there.
25-second episode.
Right, but what a great place to end this one.
Yeah. So we'll actually put it in our show notes. So if any of you want to jot it down yourselves, put it in your phone, look at it yourself, it's a super helpful reminder. And we really appreciate you guys listening today. And we would love, if you're listening to Parent Coaches Unleashed, which obviously you are if you're hearing this episode, to please share our podcast with at least one of your friends today. As our following is growing, we are looking for more feedback, more topics, and let us know how you felt about this episode. And drop us an email also at info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Follow us on Instagram. Any other final words, Jess?
No, just thank you for being here today, everybody.